arrested me here on the Falls Road at 4 o'clock in the morning, and they brought me over to a military camp in the area, and they interrogated me over a radiator. Like I was spread eagled over a radiator for 4 hours, and they questioned me about local Republicans. In actual fact, they were trying to find out where my brother was. He had been in the IRA and he had escaped from Crumlin Road Jail in 1971, and they were trying to locate him. And as a result of that, they spread eagled me over the radiator and assaulted me on different occasions for 4 hours. They then put me into the back of a pig. That's a British Army Saracen, and handcuffed my hands behind my back with plastic cuffs and put a balaclava over my head. Drove me onto the Shankill Road and left me in an alleyway in the Highfield Estate. Took the balaclava off, cut the plastic cuffs off, and started shouting that I was an IRA man. He's an IRA man. He's an IRA man. This was in the period of the no-go areas, so there was barricades up in loyalist areas, and nobody could drive in or out, except through like a form of a chicane. And they drove off. Local residents were looking at me. I walked down to the barricade. There was a couple of young people my age in the barricade, and they were asking me who I was and all of that there. I managed to run off, and I got onto a main road, and eventually was able to get a bus and stuff sort of all again. But because they were my own age, they were peers, and I was tall for my age, I was able to confuse the moment until I got out of there. But I was arrested weekly. One of the arrests in Riverdale locally here, where a number of women were arrested with me in a house. And Liz Maskey, now it was Liz McKee then, she was the first woman to be interned. And she was interned out of that particular arrest. And then within about 3 months of that, 4 months, I was 17 years of age. And on my 17th birthday, the British Army raided about 20 houses in the Armistice-town area, all associated to me in terms of friends or family or whatever it is. They found me in one of them, and I was interned for 2 years. No trial, no evidence, no nothing, just brought in. RUC made a number of accusations in sort of camera, which means it's private. Nobody was there to challenge them, and I was there for 2 years and then released in 1975. When we were in Long Kesh, conditions then were pretty frugal, and there was a number of sort of protests and a number of protests, arguments with the prison authorities, especially over the fact that the British Army were allowed to come in and raid and search us about once every 3 weeks, which meant that they were coming in, trailing us out of bed, putting us up against the wire, spread eagling us, leaving us out there for a couple of hours, hail, sleet or snow, coming, not back in again. Some of the raids were more ordinary and less sort of aggressive, but by and large there was constant friction with the British state. Amounting then in 1974, where we decided as a group of several hundred Republicans to burn the jail down, which was Long Kesh. And in 1974 October, we burned it to the ground, which is quite a good night from a Republican perspective. If you can imagine, if the Jews were able to burn down some of the more oppressive camps that they were in, the jubilation that would be there.
Several are the comparisons between the Kesh and concentration camps justified, do you think?
They're justified in terms of several hundred people brought in and put in a place for no other reason than what they represent. No particular accusation against them, no particular crime against them. In comparative terms and in sort of volume, there obviously was not the same degree of death and torture, but 7 or 8, 9 people died in Long Kesh. Some of them were shot dead by the British Army. Some of them died as a result of a lack of medical attention. So there is comparable aspects to it. Number one, in both the cases, the prisoners should never have been in there. Number two, they shouldn't have been persecuted over their religion and over their culture and over their choice of lifestyle. And the degree of violence or sort of barbarism and persecution and in humanity that was brought to bear on them, whether the volumes were different or the degrees were different, I believe it's justified to make a comparison. The comparison mainly, for me, is that the British government had a regime and an approach to that in the same Nazi-like way that the Germans did sort of during the war, but maybe not with the same ruthless, efficient, black and white clinical approach. But I also believe that that's got to do with circumstances, media, what you're able to hide, what you can get away with, the history of a particular government, how they go about things. So I think there's a lot of relativity there and a lot of comparisons there. Although I would accept completely, not in not in not in volume, but certainly in culture and certainly in sort of persecution terms. So we burned it to the ground, and quite happily so.